All five senses are based on E and M, so, you know, almost all human experiences due to electromagnetism. And the cool thing about it is that electric and magnetic fields are opposed to each other by 90 degrees, and a radio signal is orthogonal or at 90 degrees to the both of them. And I'll demonstrate that. You'll see it in this next one. You've probably never seen a radio wave before, but this is what they look like. If your senses could see them. The E sine wave going up and down is for the electric field, and the red one is at 90 degrees to that. It's called B. I don't know why it's called B. You'll have to ask Maxwell maybe. And whenever they're operating, as the electric goes up and down, it affects the magnetic and vice versa. And then at 90 degrees to the two of them, we have a radio wave heading off into space. So we've got E on the y-axis, we have magnetic field on the z-axis, and the radio wave goes out on the x-axis. So when you go to build circuits, you have to combine sub-circuits together. These are the four kinds of sub-circuits that you can use to build almost any radio. Filters, oscillators, mixers, and amplifiers. The filters are used to reject the signals you don't want. Oscillators will generate a signal that you can mix with a filtered signal, say coming in from your antenna. And then amplifiers are there to raise the amplitude of either the audio or the RF. In a direct conversion receiver, here's a diagram of that. The signal comes in the antenna, it's RF, it'll get filtered and goes into a mixer. Then we have a local oscillator sub-circuit in the radio, and that gets mixed with the RF, and out comes audio magically. There's also a bunch of cosines and sines that are flying around and other signals we want to filter out, but you know, this makes it look really simple. So, and the Pixie does have a direct conversion receiver circuitry. So here's the Pixie transceiver. That is me, isn't it? Okay. Anyway, here's a B and C connector. The antenna would plug in there. Headphones would plug into the connector there. And over here, I have a micro switch used as a Morse code key for testing purposes. So. And after building Pixies on the breadboard, I then wanted permanent versions, so I soldered the parts into strip boards, they're called. These strip boards are cheap, and they allow you to have a printed circuit board without designing a printed circuit board and having it manufactured in China or anything. You just solder the parts from the breadboard into the strip board, and you have a permanent circuit. So I did two different versions there. Now, what is a Pixie? Well, a Pixie is a transceiver that was published by a ham named GM3OXX. He called it the Fox transceiver. It was published in a publication called Sprat that the Great Britain's QRP Society publishes, I think, quarterly. And I've subscribed to it many times. I'm not currently doing it, but anyway, this particular circuit that I would like you to build has an antenna filter for 80 meters and an oscillator with an 80-meter crystal. The reason I chose 80 meters is that the crystal is only 20 cents, real cheap. You know, when you're learning especially, you don't want to spend a lot of money right up front. So anyway, and the power amplifier will transmit 300 milliwatts with 7.6 volts, two of those 18650s. I measured that, and you can get all the way up to about a watt with more voltage coming into the transceiver. And then the circuit also has a mixer and audio amplifier IC for the receiver. If you wanted to put it on a different band, you would only have to change like 4 parts to get it on 40 meters, for instance. The parts would be in the antenna filter and the oscillator. So here's the Pixie schematic. When I put it into this slide, it was upright and it fell over 90 degrees. Put it in there. So anyway, but this is the circuit. I'm not going to talk about the circuit at this point. I'm just trying to give you an overview and try to get somebody interested in giving it a try. Strip boarding is to go from the breadboard to the strip board. You have to do some mental gymnastics. Have to turn on your 13-watt, your QRP brain. I think it's interesting that we only use 13 watts in our brains, you know. We're burning all kinds of other watts everywhere else. In order to transfer the parts from the breadboard to the strip board, you have to do some mental gymnastics. You have to do a little visualization of, okay, now what do I do to get it on the strip board? But then you can solder it into the strip board and make it a permanent transceiver. And if it works, you shout Eureka, you jump up and down, you celebrate in your shack, and then you leave your shack and you go out to the family room and you turn off the TV and you tell your family, look what I did. You tell them all about it and get them really excited. And after the clapping stops, then you can mount it on the wall between your big fish and your diploma, you know. Doesn't sound like my family. They'll probably go back to your shack, you know. Oh, okay. So anyway, here's the oscillator portion of the Pixie soldered into a strip board, and I'm getting ready here to test it, make sure that works, and it did. And here's the full transmitter soldered into the strip board, and this is the dummy load here, 50 ohm dummy load, and this is a camcorder, rechargeable camcorder battery with a power switch on it, on-off switch that I like to use. So that's what we would have at that point. And here I wanted to demonstrate the code practice oscillator being used to test the amplifier in the receiver portion of the Pixie. And I do have an MP4 on here, but it doesn't play inside of the slide, so I'll move on. I also then tested, once I had the transceiver working, transmitting to a micro SDX plus transceiver, and I have a video for that too. And that worked. And it also demonstrated how not to test your Pixie. And if you've got it fully operational, you can attach it to an 80-meter antenna and see if you're heard at Half Moon Bay and other places. And if your Pixie doesn't work, there's some thoughts for how an Elmer can help you to fix your Pixie and get it operating. So a bunch of things here. And then if you want to make it even better, you can make improvements to it. You can add a power switch and a power LED. You can use the code practice oscillator that you put together on the breadboard and use that as a side tone for the Pixie. And you can raise the power to 12 volts. With these particular parts, you can go to 12 volts, but you can't go to 13.8 because you'll burn out the IC. But you can change the IC and go to 13.8 or even more, 16 volts. And a number of hams have come out with improvements to the Pixie, and there are like at least 3 of them there. So I have a sign-up sheet if anybody wants to take this class. I'll set it over here. You can sign up for it. It'll cost you $10 to take this class. You'll get enough parts for 4 circuits, including a strip board and a breadboard. And you can drop out of the class at any time. I don't know how many sessions we would have, how many it would take, but a couple anyway. You'll also need a 9-volt battery, headphones, some wire for jumpers. And if you're going to solder it into the strip board, you'll need solder and a soldering iron. And if we have a couple of people that have their Pixies working, then we can have QSOs in the classroom with dummies. Now the dummies here I'm talking about are the dummy loads, not the operators. Okay. And, so anyway, I raced through that. I didn't know how long it would take me. Never tried this before. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Yeah. I just use, what do we even call them? 32 ohm headphones. You know, people that are jogging down the street have them. You know, what did we used to call those? I don't know. Huh? Earbuds. Yeah, earbuds. Another name, I don't know. Sony. Anyway. Mike. It's like Phil talking about, have to find a library or someplace to do it. Maybe Rayleigh's. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
We did about 4 years ago.
Maybe 3. I don't know. I don't think it was 4.
This
Maybe
thing working?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had, I think we had about 14, 15 people signed up for it.
I don't know.
It's when we first started the DIY radio group. And by the way, did you know there's a test after all this? You guys ready for the test?
No test. No test.
No test.
Yes. No. No report cards. You don't have to, tell your spouse. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
That's a Pixie, I think, from China. Yeah. You can buy Pixies for $10 to $20 from China. That comes with a printed circuit board and everything.
Yeah, this was a Pixie that my 14-year-old grandson built last week. It's the 40-meter version. This goes for about $10 online. It comes with a printed circuit board kit, and it works. It's his first radio he built, and he's newly licensed. He's got his call sign KQ4OHR. It's my grandson. A lot of fun building these things.
That's to get out of full screen. You don't want to do that.
Thank you very much, Bob. You guys like that? I want to tell you, one of the things that he showed up there was a series resonance circuit. Remember the coil and the capacitor and the resistor? Well, when we did our nano VNA clinic, we actually used that very simple circuit to mimic an antenna, because an antenna has exactly those 3 ingredients. It has inductance, it has capacitance, and it has a resistance. And one of the things we're going to talk about when we do the antenna portion of this is exactly how those pieces fit together. 3 lousy components. Next month. Next month's first Tuesday is election day. And this facility
Yeah, hi everybody. The message from Cam is the laptop computer at the meeting just dropped the internet connection and they're trying to reconnect. Shout out there to Tom and Sylvia. They seem to be in a place that has daylight. That's great. It's pitch black here in Sacramento. You must be in Hawaii or someplace where it's still daytime. Yep, got it. Okay. Yeah, I just had my surgery this morning on my arm, so I'm kind of like an amputee. My right arm is useless. It's just limp. I'm doing everything in my left hand. Well, we're here and we're still recording. Looks like they're back. Their meeting is back. River City Arcs is muted. We're not getting any sound from River City Arcs.